Hey guys, I'm John with Dyke Industries. Today we're going to show you how to install a barn door. So let's hop to it. Okay, so first of all, we're going to install these hanger straps on the door here. And again, always be sure to consult your directions because they differ sometimes on the distance. They tell you to measure down here for your first hole, and then the second one just gets spaced off of that. But in this case, we're measuring down 1.9/16". And another small side note is I typically like to just center my hanger, in this rail here. So I'll measure over 2¼ inches. Puts me in the center of this rail. And here we're measuring 1.9/16 down from the top. Now just to make it simple, just use a speed square and just make your marks down through there. Second hole will land somewhere down here. Next, we'll pre-drill the holes here. Anytime I'm drilling a hole that's of a decent size like this, I always like to just pre-drill it first to get a pilot hole there. Now that we've got the holes drilled out, we'll go ahead and put the strap on here. Make sure you get both of them started and then tighten them down. Now get your wrenches and tighten these up. Make sure those are tightened down nice and snug. And that's all there's to it to put the hanger on. Make sure to repeat the process on the other side for the second hanger. Okay, so next we're going to install the anti-jump blocks. These keep the door from being able to jump off the track. So these get installed just off of the hanger strap, a couple inches or no less than 1 inch. So in this case, we'll go 2 inches. These you want to leave a little bit loose then, so you can swing them out to allow you to hang the door on the track. And once it's hung on the track, these get swiveled back into place. Make sure to repeat the process on the other side. So first we're going to install this 1x6 that we've got here. So the length of your 1x6 will be determined by the size door that you have. So in this case, we've got a 36-inch barn door that's going in. So our track is a little over 78 inches, so this 1x6 I cut to 80 inches, just so you've got a little bit of extra on each side of the track. Before you just put it up there and screw it to the wall, you do need to locate your studs first. Then I like to lay out the stud locations on my board and pre-drill that before I put it up. Now we're going to put this 1x6 up. Always be sure to have a long level handy. But this 1x6, we're just laying it right on top of the door trim. Before putting any screws in, let's check with the level. We're basically perfect right there. So we'll go ahead and put one screw in over here, and then we'll check it again before we move on. Just kind of as a side note, this board most times would either get painted to match the wall, or you can stain it to make it really stand out, but that's really kind of the homeowner's choice. So next we're ready to install the track on this header board that we put up here. Now, this is something that the height is fairly critical. You need to figure this out before you just plunge into it, but it's not all that hard to figure out. If you've got your hangers on the door, then you can measure up, to the bottom of that hanger. Then you'll know exactly where the top of this track needs to sit, and then measure accordingly. Always keeping in mind that the door needs to have clearance at the floor, 3/8 to 1/2 inch. So keep that in mind for sure. So now that we've got one end of the track fastened to our 1x6, you need to lay out the other holes where those land at. and make sure to pre-drill those as well. So now that we've got the track installed and we've got all our lag bolts in there, before you completely tighten down the lag bolts, make sure you have your level handy and just check it to make sure it's still perfectly level, because you can cheat these up and down a little bit. So in this case, I want to go up a little bit here the way it seems. Tighten this down. So the best way to do it is make sure the middle ones are all just a little bit loose so they're not holding anything. And just level from end to end. And then the middle ones, as long as you're straight in between both ends, just tighten them down and you're good to go. So now we're going to grab the door and hang it onto the track. This is handy if you have two people, but you know, depending on your strength, you can do it by yourself. So we'll grab the door, bring it over here. And you kind of need to just keep it out a little bit at the bottom, or at least that helps. Just lift it up and on. There we go. So then we need to go ahead and move these anti-jump blocks in. Tighten them down with the screwdriver. These prevent the door from being able to jump off the track. So next we're going to install these stops that get put on the end of each, one on each end of the track here. So they just slide on the end here, slide it in, and these can be adjusted to wherever you want the door to stop. And they've got set screws on the top that you need to tighten down. So lastly, we're going to talk about this door guide that we have here. So this fits right into the slot here on the bottom of the door, and that then gets fastened to the floor, your finished floor. Now in this case, obviously this is a setup for demonstration purposes only, so we're not going to install it actually, but that's the concept of how it works. And that's a wrap on the barn door. With a variety of designs, finishes, and hanging options, barn doors have become an increasingly popular option in homes that blends well with a lot of different styles. For additional resources, decorative hardware, visit dykedoors.com.
For additional resources and planning tools, be sure to check out the Dyke Edge Door Configurator at dykedoors.com.